is to allow the faculty to meet to talk about students who may be struggling so far this year and to strategize about how best to help them. So we are going to do each grade level on a particular day, which gives us Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the faculty to meet during that X block. It basically gives students a slightly longer transition time and shortens the classes a bit, just to 70 minutes from 80. Also, just reflecting on the quarter, taking feedback from students and faculty. We are having faculty incorporate 10 minutes of independent work time in the 80-minute block. So really giving students time to get started on their homework, work on any missing work, ask teachers questions, because the extra help period at the beginning of the day, which still exists, but that period is virtual. And so we wanted to give students some more opportunity with their teachers to ask any questions they might have. Also just recognizing that, yes, are we back in school? We are. Is this normal? No, this is not. So I think we really, as a faculty in the high school, are trying to prioritize what's most important to cover this year, realizing that we're not going to be able to cover everything we would normally cover. So those 10 minutes of independent work time within the 80-minute block, we're hoping will provide some opportunity for students to get work done, an opportunity for teachers to follow up with students and just dial it down a little bit from a typical year, because this is not one. I wanted to let you know that I'm going to continue sending the daily reminders about the schedule. I understand the schedule is a bit confusing, and hopefully I've gotten a lot of positive feedback about those daily reminders. Hopefully they're helpful and keep everyone aware of where they need to be and when. So we'll continue to do that. A reminder, there's no school tomorrow. You probably know that. We do have picture retake day on November 20th. Some people have asked. That doesn't require an appointment. The pictures will be taken outside the auditorium lobby or in the auditorium. So I'll send some more information next week closer to that day. And then I also wanted to mention, and this went out in the weekly newsletter, this is something new that we're participating in. We are in collaboration with Yonkers, Mount Vernon, and Sarah Lawrence College to be a part of a group of faculty and students looking at equity in education. And on Thursday, there will be a panel discussion with experts in the field, and anyone is invited. You just need to pre-register. It is hosted by Sarah Lawrence, but will include all those 3 districts. And there will be more work to come with the districts collaborating moving forward around this topic of equity in education. Finally, and maybe when Roy does get here, he can mention this, we are potentially, I think, definitely going to be doing a travel survey to families just to get a sense of travel plans over the Thanksgiving weekend and over the December break, so that we can plan accordingly, trying to understand, how many students may be needing to quarantine. We're also going to be looking at that on the faculty level, just so that we have information ahead of time as far as what may be taking place after those breaks based on travel. So keep an eye out for that. That's just for pre-planning purposes, so we can make sure things are as seamless as possible after the breaks. That is all I have, Margaret. So I don't know, I don't see Roy yet, so maybe we can move on to someone else.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Anne, for that update. Why don't we move on to Erin Kine, Director of Counseling? I know there was a very successful, I've been hearing wonderful things about the case study that you guys did. So
yeah,
an update would be great.
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So I guess I'll start with the case study. So I will say, unfortunately, the event last night that was hosted, or that we co-hosted with the University of Chicago, we were unable to record due to Chicago's institutional policies. But we did kind of go through mock admissions files and discussed and dissect sort of what admissions officers are looking for in a holistic admissions process. I will say that I received a lot of good feedback thus far. I'm always open to more. And I will also add that, you know, in the spring, whether we do that again or do something similar to that, you know, the Zoom environment has allowed us to bring in a lot of great guests. In September, the senior class was joined by Greg Roberts from UVA. Just a few weeks ago in October, the junior class was joined by Kate Tomlin at Georgetown, and then we had this event. So we will continue to see who we can invite and welcome via Zoom as this kind of new mode of communication continues. Just a few updates on some other grade levels and other fronts. I guess maybe most recently, the freshman transition program is growing. So it started with one senior meeting with 1 to 3 ninth graders, and now we've built it out to, I think they have like groups of 5 or 6 seniors meeting with 10 to 12 ninth graders, obviously virtually. And that's historically like the group size it's been when we've been in person. So those bigger group meetings are going to continue for the foreseeable future, obviously also virtually. And as the students are talking about studies, this week's session or this kind of cycle session is study skills. And we thought that was an appropriate topic kind of on the tail end of the first quarter coming to an end. Sorry, my notes are on my phone, which keeps closing. The department also met with 9th and 10th graders this past month in October. We met with most of the 9th and 10th graders. For those that we didn't get a chance to see, we're continuing to track down and just touch base with just to make sure, really just to say hello, specifically for the 9th graders. Some of them met with a counselor that's no longer in the school, so we're just reorientating them with our office and our role in their lives. And for the 10th graders, just again, checking in to say hello and see how they're doing, you know, all things considered. The seniors, as you all know, if you have any seniors, most of them, the vast majority of them just got done applying to college early for November 1st. November 15th is another big deadline if they're applying early. You know, we have a Google Classroom page for them that we're hoping that they're checking. We will be sending out some information if they need to send their first quarter grades to college. So for senior parents, be on the lookout for that. We'll send that through Infinite Campus as well as the classroom. We processed quite a number of applications early. I think my take thus far is that students are applying to more places because they do not need test scores. So, you know, we can talk about this on the tail end of the process, but I think the numbers across the board are going to go up at different colleges, both in Bronxville and just nationwide. Let's see what else I have here. Maybe, and then lastly, the junior workshop. So we spoke a little bit about this during the junior event in October. We had these workshop series for the past few years, preparing the juniors to research and apply to college. Historically, we've done this in the spring, and the past few years, the feedback, albeit positive, the one consistent data point has been that they wish that we started it earlier. So we're going to do that this year. So actually starting, I think next Wednesday starts a new cycle. So next Wednesday is when that workshop series will start. We're just finalizing the schedule. So some information will go out on that, you know, late this week, early next week about who's in which section and where they report to. And that will be, I guess, taught by or facilitated by either 1 or 2 counselors and, you know, a safe and appropriately socially distanced classroom full of juniors. For the rest of this quarter, we'll take a little pause while we do course planning and college meetings in January, and then we'll pick it up again in the spring. And that's kind of my update. We do have a newsletter as well that I hope you all are receiving that will continue to update, you know, each month. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Erin. And having a senior, we do really, really appreciate all the updates and the Google Classroom page. It's a good way to keep us organized. Otherwise, I don't know where we would be. I looked and it doesn't look like Roy has joined us. I'm not sure he's going to.
He said they're just finishing up and he'll be in a second.
Okay, great. So if you don't mind, Joe, if we could just move over to you and get an update on athletics. Congratulations on finishing the fall season. It was, I'm sure, difficult to get it underway, but the kids all seemed quite happy with how it went.
Yep, actually, this was the last week of regular season play, then playoffs start next week. And actually, we had competitions today for tennis. So we had our first sectional play was today for tennis, and our two athletes, Katie Formato and Rory Christian, were regional champions. They broke the section up a little differently, so they went south Westchester, so they won the regional championship today. So that was our first sectional champion for the fall, and hopefully we have some more coming up. Cross country's coming up soon, and both field hockey and soccer is still to go, and those will be determined, or those will be seedings will be determined this weekend, and then we'll start playing next weekend. The only other thing I'll bring up to date is there's been a lot of information out about what's going to happen in the winter. We just got another update about a half an hour ago, some clarification. So basically, the section is clarified and said as of right now, the governor will give the go-ahead, we think, to all the low-risk winter sports and the medium-risk winter sports. So for us, it's easier to say, as of right now, basketball and hockey have not been given clearance yet, but the low-risk sports have and moderate-risk sports have. And our section has a meeting on Thursday, and we will be determining on Thursday when we are going to start. Most likely we're going to start the middle of December with games after Christmas, but that's not official yet. But we should have some information by the end of this week or be the next week of when our winter seasons will start. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And I just wanted to confirm, I believe there's a typo on my agenda, but in the paper calendar, it says that there is going to be the Fall Sports Awards virtually on November 18th at 7 p.m. That's still going on?
Yep, it'll be Thursday actually, and 18th will be a day in case a team has a playoff on Thursday. We'll push that team to Wednesday. It'll be done online in the auditorium, teams only. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stream them on our YouTube channel. And what we'll do is then we'll put the whole event together and put it right on our website so parents can see it later on in the year also. But that's just for the athletes only and the coaches only.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
Roy is here now.
oh, excellent. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. I'm just going to segue right to you for our superintendent's update.
Thank you. I'm glad I could be here. Hi, everybody. Sorry, Rachel and I were at a MPC meeting. We just got out of that, so we just jumped into here. So apologize for being late. Well, let's see. First, I don't know what's been said already, so I apologize if there are any repeats, but I don't know if we'll meet again before Thanksgiving. So I did want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you get to spend some time, maybe even if it's just virtually, with family members. I know it's a little bit different than it has been. And speaking of I guess I'll just touch base on this a little bit. Speaking of the whole Thanksgiving holiday time frame, we heard some questions even at the MPC, and maybe you're hearing the same things too, or are schools planning on closing between Thanksgiving and New Year's and all that stuff? And we are not planning on doing that. We know that some students and families and perhaps even some staff members may be traveling and may need to quarantine after they return. The only reason we would be closing or have to go to remote is if we don't have enough staff members to staff in-person learning, if they were traveling, or if the state puts some form of restrictions on us that says you have to go to remote instruction only. But I would remind people that if you do travel, to keep in mind the state restrictions that are attached to that. so you don't put anybody else in harm's way when you return. The time after New Year's, so we're not planning on doing any of our own choosing remote learning after Thanksgiving. We're still discussing the potential of that after New Year. We know that's a 2-week break and that people are more likely to go away or visit or vacation somewhere else. And we're trying to reach out to our own staff members to do a survey of how many people are planning on things so we can plan accordingly for the time after the New Year break to see if we have to do anything at that point in time. Somewhat related to that, I just want to bring everybody up to speed on where the state is at with their restrictions. You may have seen or heard Governor Cuomo talk about micro clusters. And I've been on every Monday I'm on a call with other superintendents as well as county health officials, and the state micro clusters are these designated zones. The closest one to us right now is Port Chester. They're considered to be in a yellow zone. So I'll try to explain what that means a little bit. So we have yellow, orange, and red. Yellow, if you're in a yellow zone, it means that the county infection rate is at 2.5% or higher. And right now, I think we're at about 2.3, so it's getting close. And you're in a community that if you have less than 10,000 people, you would have 3 new COVID cases per week on a kind of rolling 10-day average. If it's over 10,000 people, it's 5 new cases per week on a 10-day average. So if those conditions are met, the state designates you as being in a yellow zone, which means that you either have to go to remote instruction only, or if you want to remain in person, you have to test 20% of the people in person. So in our case, it would be between staff and students, about 400 people. You'd have to test about 400 people weekly, randomly, but weekly in order to stay open. So that's what that yellow zone means if we get designated to be put in that. Now, I don't know, no one really knows how the testing protocols will take place right now. In Port Chester, the state has provided people there to provide testing and help with testing. I don't imagine they will do that for every community if everybody's in yellow zone in the county. So we'll have to come up with something, hopefully, if we want to stay in person, to see if we can meet that testing requirement. If you're placed in an orange or a red zone, you have to go to remote. You have no option of staying in person. And orange means that you're at 3% or higher in the county, and there's a higher number for the community. I just don't remember what it is. I have the chart I can send out if you're interested. And in the red zone, it means you're at 4% infection rate or higher in the county. So we're looking at that very closely because, as I say, as you all know, the infection rates are going up again around us or across the country, certainly. And we want to try to do everything that we possibly can to stay open and have our kids in school. So please, everyone, do what you can to help us in that regard. Other than that, I don't know if Ann touched on it, but we have our capital project still moving along. And that's one of the questions that came up is, when do we think high school kids could be back in full time? What's the criteria? What's holding us up? And it's really a space issue for us more than anything else at this point. But when the guidance suite is built and the atrium is in place, we'll get some other spaces back. We'll get a classroom back. We'll get the classroom where the current guidance office is now back. We'll have the atrium, which will allow us to spread kids out during lunchtime better. So Ann and I have been talking. We're trying to come up with a plan that when that construction is complete, which we hope is going to be in January sometime, could be sooner. But if it's in January, once those spaces come back online for us to use, we're looking pretty good about getting our high school students back in full time again. So, we have a plan in place. Just a matter of when we can get additional space available. High school is a little bit different than the elementary and middle school, where we have pods. Classroom sizes are fairly constant. High school kids are moving around. Classes have different sizes. So we have different requirements all around. So that's something we hope we can all look forward to down the line. but other than that, we're continuing to try to improve on our hybrid instruction as best we can, and we'll keep on moving forward. So thank you for your support and your participation in helping us stay safe and keep our kids in. That's really about all I have at the moment, unless there's other questions.
Westchester. Okay. Thank you so much for that. There is a question in the
Sure.
chat about, and either Ann or Roy, if either one of you can speak to this, how many COVID cases have been identified in the Bronxville School District and also in the village at large? There is a website, a LOHUD website. You can go look at that. I don't have it up right now. If either of you know off the top of your heads, that would be great.
I don't know that I know it off the top of my head. Rachel, I'm not sure if you know that off the top of your head better. Rachel's designated as our COVID coordinator, a title that she willingly accepted with twisting of the arm. So I'm going to defer to her at the moment.
So it's interesting that the only cases that we have had within our school building were initial positives with their second test being negative. Having said that, according to our medical director, a positive is a positive is a positive, meaning that we handle it as if it's a positive. So we had a one in our elementary school, which we were quite fortunate that that was our first case, because as you may be aware, we've got very clean, strict pods in our elementary school. And so that allowed us to quarantine a finite amount of people, one classroom and less than a handful of adults associated with that classroom. Once we hear of a positive case, we assist the Department of Health in contact tracing, and contact tracing happens for 2 days prior to the positive case. So that is what we did in the case in the elementary school. More recently, we had an employee, again, initially test positive, and given the role of that employee, we had no close contact tracing. So that was fortunate in that it didn't disrupt any instruction in the school. Out of abundance of caution, we did have some staff members, again, who we did not believe were close contacts, stay out and get tested, again, out of an abundance of caution. We've been very fortunate. We all see the news. We see what's happening in neighboring districts. And I think it's not a coincidence that we've had few cases, and because I think that our community and our school employees take this very seriously. And we want to do everything we can to be able to stay in person.
Thank you, Rachel. And just, I was talking to my sister, and apparently there is a westchester.gov Twitter account, and they send out a daily map. And according to that map that she received today, historically, there have been 109 cases in Bronxville since the pandemic started. And currently there are 10 active cases in Bronxville, but apparently not in our school, which is great. So there is another question on the chat asking if we have considered bringing in substitute teachers remotely.
I'm not exactly sure what that's referring to.
I'm assuming with respect to the canceled classes.
Our substitute teacher pool is quite limited, just because generally we bring subs into the building. I guess maybe this person is referring to whether we would have subs teach remotely. It's not something we've considered, but we could think about it.
Some of the challenges with that are, we're not sure the subs have the equipment at home to teach remotely. They would need materials to teach, remotely. And we'd have to make sure they have some level of skill sets as well to monitor and teach in a remote environment, which is very different, obviously, than an in-person environment. So we'd want to make sure they have the bandwidth at home and all those kind of things in order to be effective.
Okay, are there any other questions? Oh, go ahead. Did someone have a question? Okay, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I will keep monitoring that. But we're moving right along on our agenda. We're going to,
There's one more question, Margaret, sorry.
you miss it? Go ahead.
Yeah, about the what type of test we accept, and we're very specific about that. So we are only accepting one particular kind of rapid test, otherwise all PCR. And in fact, the rapid test we're accepting is the only one New York State is accepting. And so now it's pretty much impossible to get that rapid test unless you're symptomatic or elderly or at high risk. So essentially, you're going to need to get a PCR test, which we understand takes a little bit longer, but we don't want people with a false negative in the building exposing large groups of people. So it is the only thing that we're accepting. We did send something out. PCR, as a former biology teacher, is polymerase chain reaction, but it's just a more accurate test. But yeah, so we did send something out, I think last week about this, and I'm sure it's on the website as well, but it really is an update from New York State regarding reliable tests.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we're just going to go through our grade chairs so they can give, oh, wait a second, another one. Why are some crossing guards not wearing face masks? I believe the crossing guards work directly with the police department.
Yeah, they report directly to the village. We don't have any authority over the crossing guards at all. So I would ask that people who are concerned about that reach out to the village, because that's who hires them and employs them.
I think there was one, just a comment, but I think she's wearing one now. I noticed
Good.
this past week.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're just going to go to our grade chair so that we can get updates from each of the separate grades on what is going on, or if there's anything interesting upcoming that we should be aware of. The 9th grade, is there anything upcoming that you would like to share?
I don't have anything particular to share, but want to thank Anne for your daily email, and the first quarter finished smoothly, and a well-deserved recognition to you, Margaret. Katie, do you have anything else to add? I guess, well, she can speak if she needs.
I think Katie might have dropped off. I don't see her name.
Okay, all right. So I guess that's it for Katie and me.
Okay, thank you, Laura. 10th grade chairs.
10th grade, we really don't have anything to report as well. Sort of a different kind of year with the social distancing and such in terms of creating the typical events that we would create. But nothing to report at this point.
Was there some talk of doing a holiday toy drive or something? Or is that just me remembering incorrectly?
Could be. I have not heard about it though, if there is.
It's usually Dana Landsman does something for a veterans home and then but I don't know if that's happening this year because I don't know what they'd be accepting, but that's sometimes what 10th grade does.
Okay.
Okay.
11th grade. I see Kelly on the line.
Hi, Margaret. Hi, everyone. Thank you. The 11th grade class will be selling face masks, and the proceeds will be going to a local charity in Westchester. Most likely it'll be a food bank in the area. The class officers are still finalizing some of these details. There will be a logo contest across all 3 schools, kind of as a Broncos spirit event to bring the school together. Hopefully these masks will be done in time for the holidays, but with COVID, there may be some delay. Additionally, the 11th grade class fundraiser is completed now with mock online testing. They did the SAT and the ACT as of last Saturday. Both tests have been completed. So we just want to say a big thank you to all the students and families that participated, and especially big thanks to Bespoke Education here in the village for sponsoring such a great event for our students on behalf of the school. And thank you to the guidance department for mentioning it in their newsletter. That was a big help also. So that's all.
Thank you, Kelly. 12th grade. Okay, I don't know if there's anyone 12th grade online, but I do know that the Halloween celebration despite the rain date change, went over well. All the seniors I know enjoyed themselves, and it was broadcast to the school. And for those, there was an email that went out with respect to the dresses for graduation. And then I know some of the parents of boys were concerned that they did not receive an email. And for those parents, I just wanted to let you know that apparently the tuxedos that are rented do not need quite the lead time that the dresses do. So that email won't be coming out to the spring. So boy parents have plenty of time to deal with that. And next, Nancy Marshall from the Bronxville Foundation is going to be speaking to us.
Hi there. Just wanted to touch base a little bit about the foundation. I know you're all fairly familiar with the good work that the foundation does. And we support, as you know, initiatives across all 3 schools, including many that help the school pivot in the spring and go to virtual learning, and many very recently for off-cycle grants were approved that helped us restart safely and provide for the different models of learning. And again, as you know, all of this is made possible through your generosity. The fundraising campaign is now in full swing, and all school families have received a letter a few weeks back. We hope you'll consider donation to BSF this year. And of course, your past generosity is very, very much appreciated and particularly important this year. Last but definitely not least, a few words about the Katie Welling Run. Many of you are familiar with the Bronxville tradition honoring the memory of Katie Welling, a 2002 graduate. The run traditionally takes place a Saturday after Thanksgiving, and we are hoping to replicate the spirit of the day this year virtually, since it's impossible to do a safe run. For more information on this year's run and how you can participate, please go to our website. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always direct them to me or to anyone in the foundation office. And in advance, thanks so much for all your past support and for your continued generosity. That's all.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Aaron, there is a question with respect to the October ACT
Yeah.
score.
Yeah, I just responded. Most of the students have received their score either through the mail or through their ACT portal. You know, the timeline is a ridiculous timeline of 3 to 8 weeks. And I actually just recently spoke to one of the reps that said some scores might not come out until sometime in January. So to Ms. Wardle, I am going to see if I have access to your daughter's score myself. But if I can kind of continue the rest of that privately with her. But most of those scores have been most of those tests have been scored, and most of the scores have been received by the students.
Okay, another question with respect to testing to stay open. I'm assuming if we become a yellow zone, since our numbers in the community are going up, if we need to test to stay open, would this be covered by the existing school budget? Would we need to get a grant from the foundation or elsewhere? Would parents be paying? Where would the money be coming from for the testing?
And that is a great question that I don't know that we have an answer to yet. I don't believe it can come out of the school budget because, as you know, we're already planning on having a 20% reduction in our state aid this year. So there are no funds set aside to begin paying for testing. We're hoping, and I've made contact with a lab that could potentially provide the testing that we need, but we're trying to work our way through what insurances might cover that test should it be mandated. In Portchester, I know the state is supplying the tests and they're paying for them. Unfortunately, from what I understand, there are also the rapid tests that nobody accepts, but there are a lot of things that still need to be worked out there that are, and not a lot of answers forthcoming yet from the Department of Health. But again, we have a lab in place that will do it. We're hoping that if personal insurance would cover a lot of those things. I know, for example, in my wife's district here, she and her staff get tested every week if they want to. Our insurance is covering that with no issue. And the lab just takes whatever the insurance would pay. They're also willing to negotiate prices. So we're going to look into that. But I think, I don't know that we have a second source of funding to set aside for payment of testing yet.
Okay, thank you. There is another question with respect to class cancellations, and
Sure.
what are the reasons for class cancellations? And there seem to be quite a few on a daily basis. So
Yep. So basically, unlike in past years, we don't have substitutes in the building. So if a teacher is absent, whether they have a personal day or they have a sick day, we don't have someone to cover their classes. So what we've done, to be honest, it's probably not much different than a substitute covering the class. If you can imagine what happens when subs cover classes, the kids are going on to Google Classroom and they're doing work that the teacher has assigned. What we're doing now is just saying to students, you don't need to report to class, just go online and do the work. As far as how it compares to the past, it's probably difficult for parents to really have a sense of that because you wouldn't have been aware necessarily of how many faculty were absent or not on a particular day. So it's certainly something we're monitoring, but the other thing I just want to note is given COVID, just like your children, if any faculty member has any symptom that's on that list, they too must stay home. And as we all know, pretty much everything is on that list. So we are working with faculty now to see if they're not terribly sick, but they need to stay home and get tested. They are starting, if possible, to teach remotely. So that is something we're looking into to alleviate the canceled classes. But yep, that's just the reality. We don't have subs in the building to cover the classes. So we are still having work assigned. It's just that students wouldn't be reporting to their classroom for that work. And again, continuing to monitor the situation. This is a year like no other, as we all know. So these numbers are a little bit unique. Not only are faculty staying home if they themselves have a symptom, if they have children, their children might be staying home from whatever district they attend with symptoms, and it takes multiple days sometimes to get tests back. So again, we're trying to work with faculty to teach remotely when possible to minimize this.
thank you so much, Anne. So next on the agenda, we have Christine Tormey. I don't believe she's on the call. Christine, are you here? Okay, I have the youth council update. She says that they've had a terrific Zoom playgroup 2 Fridays ago, in which 5 Bronxville high schoolers led Halloween bingo and art craft for 12 kids from the West Hab daycare program. And they're hoping to have another one this month. They're working on a modified powder puff football game between Bronxville juniors and senior girls, working on other virtual service opportunities. If you are interested or your children are interested in service opportunities, there is contact information in the agenda with respect to the 2 seniors who are heading that this year, Maeve Sullivan, Annabelle Krause and Maeve Sullivan. Does Bold have anything to announce?
Hi, yes, Margaret, it's Neve Hartnett-Maluccio here from Bold. Yeah, we just want to announce that there will be a meeting on December 1st, and our Director of Counseling, Erin Kind, organized this. We will have a speaker who works in college admissions. She's also a mother of a landmark college alum with ADHD. So there's going to be a presentation, mark it down, December 1st, 7 p.m. We will be sending out more emails reminding people, but it's going to give students and families the tools they need to determine the fit and explore a variety of college options that may help them prepare for successful transition. So you will be hearing more about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Neve. Do either of the Jens want to give an update on Be Well?
We're going to delay the school read discussion, so you can take November 17th off of your calendar. And we're working with the administration to make it a more in-depth, valuable experience. And so I think we're looking at early December, and we'll send out a date soon. So please buy How to Raise an Adult by Julia Lithcutt-Hames. Check out our TED Talk. We've sent out links to some of her material, and you'll have extra time to finish.
Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate that. I do need the extra time to finish the book, so I've been distracted. So that's short and sweet. If no one else has anything else to share, then we are going to wrap this up under an hour. I hope everyone enjoys having their children home tomorrow. And we will have the beginning of the second quarter on Thursday. So thank you very much. Have a lovely week. Enjoy the weather. And we will, oh, the next meeting, sorry, just to run through dates. I was supposed to do this. The next meeting isn't until January. So we will not get to see each other virtually as it is until the new year. So January 12th, back to 7 p.m. And we will see you guys all in the new year. Otherwise, thank you. Bye-bye.